Coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at today's headlines. President Tinubu mourns Ghanaian ministers killed in helicopter crash. FG unveils revised national employment policy to lift Nigerians out of poverty. Trump orders India tariff hike to 50% for buying Russian oil. Details of the stories and more in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. First in the news this morning is that President Bola Tinubu has extended heartfelt condolences to the President of Ghana, John Mahama, and the people of Ghana following a tragic helicopter crash that claimed the lives of two national laws and urged the bereaved families and the Ghanaian nation to take further. Away from that, the federal government has launched the 2005 Revised National Employment Policy (NEP) to lift Nigerians out of poverty. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Mohammed Dangyadi, who launched the policy, explained that the revised policy offered a bold, inclusive and future-fit solution to the nation's employment challenges. He noted that the policy would provide a labour market that delivers inclusive growth, equity, productivity and sustainability for every Nigerian, stating that the review was necessitated by Nigeria's employment landscape, which has been challenged by high youth unemployment, underemployment, informality, gender disparity and regional inequalities. The minister further electoral matters where the Resident Electoral Commissioner (REC) of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in Osun State, Mutu Agbeboke, has cautioned against the registration of underage individuals and foreigners, stating that such actions are punishable offences under the Electoral Act. The warning comes ahead of the Continuous Voter Registration (CVR) exercise scheduled to commence on 8 August. Speaking during a sensitization visit to the palace of the Oluwa of Kuta, Adekunle Oyalunde, Abekboke emphasized that the registration is free and warned against any attempt to monetize the process, calling for vigilance and collaboration between different stakeholders. The Ocean Board stated that the exercise also offered an opportunity for voters to correct errors from previous registrations. However, he warned against double registration. In a separate development, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has raised alarm over the widespread occurrences of money laundering within Nigeria's real estate sector, citing estate developers as key facilitators due to inadequate customer vetting. According to a press release on EFCC's social media account, its chairman, Ola Olukayode, tasked real estate developers with the need to do background checks on real estate investors to ascertain the legitimacy of their sources of income. Olukayode gave the admonition while delivering a speech titled Tackling Illegal Property Sales, Fake Developers and Unlicensed Agents at an event in Abuja. He urged developers to prioritize KYC checks, warning that failure to comply will lead to severe consequences. In education, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAM) has rolled out stringent procedures for screening of exceptional Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME) candidates who are still under the age of 16 years for admission into Nigerian universities in the 2025-2026 academic session. JAM Registrar Professor Isa Koluyede, who rolled out the measures during a virtual meeting with vice chancellors and heads of admissions in Abuja, stated that the board would no longer tolerate the academic abuse of pushing psychological and emotional unprepared children into the rigors of university life, while reaffirming 16 years as the minimum entry age for tertiary education. Oluyede noted that underage candidates would also be considered on clearly proven grounds of exceptional academic brilliance, maintaining that to qualify for consideration, under 16 candidates must meet the 3 academic criteria, including a minimum UTME score of 320 out of 400, a post-UTME score of at least 80%, and a minimum of 80% in a single sitting of WAEC or NECO, amounting to 24 points out of 30. The JAM boss also outlawed the combination of results from 2 different exam bodies, such as mixing WAEC and NECO results for such category of candidates, adding that science students must include mathematics in their 3 top subjects, while art students must include English as their 3 top subjects. The JAM boss also announced that at least 4 universities have written to JAM, stating categorically that they will not admit underage candidates under any circumstances. The said universities include the Air Force Institute of Technology, Kaduna, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, University of Jos, and Osun State University. Let's move now to Africa, where the presidency of Ghana has confirmed that Minister of Defense Edward Boma and Minister of Environment Ibrahim Mohammed have been killed in a helicopter crash hours after the armed forces reported that a chopper carrying 3 crew and 5 passengers dropped off the radar. According to report, the helicopter was on its way to an event in I'll check that again. The helicopter was on its way to an event on illegal mining a major environmental issue in a West African country where everyone on board was killed in the accident. Meanwhile, the president and government extend their condolences and sympathies to the families of the servicemen who died in service to the country. On a foreign scene, US President Donald Trump has issued an executive order hitting India with an additional 25% tariffs over its purchases of Russian oil. The addition will raise the total tariff on Indian imports to the United States to 50%. According to the executive order, the new rates will come into effect in 21 days, which is August 27th. A response from India's foreign ministry said Delhi had already made clear its stance on the imports from Russia and reiterated that the tariff is unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. Recall that the US president had earlier warned he would raise levies, saying India does not care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Still on the foreign scene, French Prime Minister François Bayrou says a huge deadly wildfire sweeping through the south of France is a catastrophe on an unprecedented scale. Bayrou, who's noted that the wildfire is linked to global warming and drought, said he had been visiting the Odeur region where the wildfire scorched an area larger than Paris. According to report, an elderly woman has been killed, one person missing and 13 injured as 2,150 firefighters continue to tackle the blaze, which has burnt more than 15,000 hectares. Meanwhile, officials say the blaze broke out near the village of La Riboite, adding that it's France's biggest wildfire since 1949. Still to come in the news. Leicester City rejects Valencia bid for defensive midfielder Wilfred Ndidi. Stay tuned for details of this in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. On a business news, the federal government has said it is taking concrete steps to build a resilient local energy supply chain to caution Nigeria against global disruptions that have increasingly threatened the stability of cross-border energy operations. Speaking at the 2025 Nigerian Annual International Conference and Exhibition of the Society of Petroleum Engineers in Lagos, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Senator Henneken Lokbokberi, said Nigeria could no longer afford to rely solely on international supply chains amid rising uncertainties globally. Lokbokberi explained that these efforts are part of the government's broader strategy to fortify the country's energy ecosystem while expanding opportunities for local players. He noted that the administration of President Tinubu has pursued deliberate and investment-driven reforms to position Nigeria as a preferred destination for energy investment. Still in business, the government has said that Nigeria must transition from importing used industrial scrap to deploying world-class resilient manufacturing solutions as part of efforts to reposition the sector for global competitiveness. The Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno, stated this during the 2025 edition of the Nigerian Manufacturing and Equipment. Nigeria could not continue to rely on outdated and imported equipment if it hopes to achieve true industrial sovereignty. The minister noted that manufacturing currently contributes less than 10% to Nigeria's gross domestic product sales. He also added that the government was finalizing a draft national industrial policy which will place technology adoption, equipment financing, and power integration at the core of manufacturing innovation. On the health news, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the immediate implementation of overdue pension increases and rollout of free healthcare access for low-income retirees under the Contributory Pension Scheme. The directive, which forms part of the administration's broader social protection Director General of the National Pension Commission, Omalola Oluwararan, at the State House in Abuja. According to a statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the President emphasized that retirees, particularly those with limited means, deserve dignity, support, and access to basic services after years of service to the nation. The President expressed strong support for Commission's reform, reaffirming his administration's commitment to inclusive economic growth and improved welfare for all Nigerians, especially the elderly and vulnerable. Still in health, the Kaduna State Primary Healthcare Board (SPHCB) has announced plans to inaugurate an mpox vaccination campaign in selected local government areas affected by the outbreak. Health educator at the SPHCB, Isa Yushin, said this during a stakeholders engagement meeting on introduction of the mpox vaccines in Kaduna. Yeshua stated that the board was working proactively to prevent the spread of the disease and ensure the health and safety of Kaduna residents. He noted that several local government areas in the state had recorded a significant mpox cases. Let's move now to sports, where Skybet Championship Club Leicester City have turned down Valencia's late offer for Wilfred Ndidi. The Foxes, according to reports, have accepted Turkish Super League giant Besiktas agreed to pay €9.5 million for the defensive midfielder, with only minor details left. The 28-year-old will sign a 3-year contract with Besiktas with the option of another year and is expected to undergo medical at the Istanbul club this week. Still in sport, Victoria Mboko will face Naomi Osaka in the final of the Canadian Open after defying the odds to upset former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina. The 18-year-old Canadian, ranked 85 in the world, lost the first set and saved the match point in the second before going on to seal a 1-6, 7-5, 7-6, 7-4 victory in Montreal. Mboko, a wildcard entry for the tournament, will face former world number 1 Osaka today in her first WTA 1000 final. The Canadian, who is set to move into top 15 in the ranking, has already beaten Coco Gauff and Sophia Kenny on a remarkable run to the final. On Entertainment News, Nollywood actor Jim Iyke has expressed his views on modern feminism, describing it as a movement that has strayed from its original purpose and now borders on criminality. In a recent interview, Iyke argued that while early feminist movements aimed to address real issues like patriarchy and gender imbalance, the current version has evolved into a distorted ideology that encourages unnecessary competition between the male and female genders. The actor criticized what he termed the movement's double standard, stating that it promotes a two-faced approach to gender dynamics rather than striving for national balance. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Emedion James, and you've been watching Spectrum News at 10. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.